Jerry is a manager of a restaurant. He's always in a good mood. When someone would ask him how he's doing, he'd always reply, "If I were any better, I'd be twins." Many of the waiters at his restaurant used to quit their jobs when Jerry changed jobs, so that they could follow him around from restaurant to restaurant. Why? Because Jerry was a natural motivator. If an employee was having a bad day, Jerry was always there, telling the employee how to look on the positive side of the situation. Seeing this style really made me curious, so one day I went up to Jerry and asked him, "I don't get it. No one can be a positive person all the time. How do you do it?" Jerry replied, "Each morning I wake up and say to myself, I have two choices today. I could choose to be in a good mood, or I could choose to be in a bad mood. I always choose to be in a good mood. Each time something bad happens, I could choose to be the victim, or I could choose to learn from it. I always choose to learn from it. Every time someone comes to me complaining, I could choose to accept their complaining, or I can point out the positive side of life. I always choose the positive side of life." "But it's not always that easy," I protested. "Yes, it is," Jerry said. "Life is all about choices. When you cut away all the junk, every situation is a choice. You choose how you react to situations. You choose how people will affect your mood. You choose to be in a good mood or a bad mood. It's your choice how you live your life." Several years later, I heard that Jerry did something that you are never expected to do in a restaurant business. He left the back door of his restaurant open, and he was robbed by 3 armed men. They forced Jerry to open the safe box. While Jerry was trying to open it, his hand, shaking from nervousness, slipped of the combination. The robbers panicked and shot him. Luckily, Jerry was found quickly and rushed to the hospital. After 18 hours of surgery and weeks of intensive care, Jerry was released from the hospital with fragments of bullets still in his body. I saw Jerry about 6 months after the accident. When I asked him how he was, he replied, "If I were any better, I'd be twins. Want to see my scars?" I declined to see his wounds, but did ask him what was going through his mind as the robbery took place. "The first thing that went through my mind was that I should have locked the back door," Jerry replied. "Then after they shot me, as I laid on the floor, I remembered that I had 2 choices. I could choose to live, or I could choose to die. I chose to live." "Weren't you scared?" I asked. Jerry continued, "The paramedics were great. They kept telling me that I was going to be fine. But when they wheeled me into the emergency room, and I saw the expressions on the faces of the doctors and nurses, I got really scared. In their eyes, I read, 'He's a dead man.' And I knew I needed to take action." "What did you do?" I asked. "Well, there was a big nurse shouting questions at me," said Jerry. "She asked me if I was allergic to anything. 'Yes,' I replied. The doctors and nurses stopped working as they waited for my reply. I took a deep breath and yelled, 'Bullets!' Over their laughter, I told them, 'I'm choosing to live. Please operate on me as if I'm alive and not dead.' Jerry lived thanks to the skill of his doctors, but also because of his amazing attitude. I learned from him that every day you have a choice to either enjoy your day or hate it. The only thing that is truly yours, that no one can control or take from you, is your attitude. So if you can take care of that, everything in life becomes much easier." How'd you like the story? Let us know by writing in the comment box. And don't forget to subscribe and share this YouTube channel.
My mom looked horrible. I was scared of her, and I so hated her. Hello, people out there. I'm Alex, and today I'll tell you the story of something which I was not supposed to do. It all started when I was in elementary school. My father married another woman who was very beautiful and left us. My stepmom was a fashion designer and owned a boutique. They lived in another city, but my father was in my contact. I met him on the weekend. My real mother developed good manners in me and raised me pretty well alone. She worked in a factory and earned well to bear our expenses. But even though she did a lot for me, I hated her like anything because she was ugly. Her face had marks which were scary. I always asked my dad to take me with him, but he always had some meetings or was busy with work, and my stepmom was busy with her fashion designing and shows. So I had no option but to stay with my mother. Though I stayed with her, I never slept beside her and neither cared for her. Before continuing, I would ask you to subscribe to our channel. Years passed on. As I grew, I hated her more. I made her feel bad for everything possible. I never thought of a moment before hurting her. But she never felt bad and cared for me in the same manner. I was in high school those days. One day before leaving for school, I was talking to my friend Jade on a video call. That moment, my mom came behind me and Jade saw her, and she got scared. I looked at my mom and shouted, "What are you doing in my room?" She said, "I just bought a lunchbox for you." I just took it from her and threw the lunchbox. Then I left home angrily. My mother was worried that I'll be hungry, so she brought the lunchbox to the school. When she entered the classroom, everyone started yelling, "Ew, she looks horrible. She's so ugly." I just couldn't control my anger, so I burst out and I told her to leave the school. That day, I was so embarrassed. I told everything to my father and decided to visit the same city where he was living for further studies. I just wanted to get rid of my mother, and hence I left her alone and shifted to Dad's place. Years passed by and I cleared my MBA. It was my biggest day, which I celebrated with my father and stepmother. Till these years, I never called my mom to ask about her health. She tried calling me many times, but I never responded. I got a job in a multinational company, where I met Kate, with whom I fell in love. I worked hard day and night and got promoted. I purchased a bungalow of my own and got married to Kate. After marriage, one day, she asked me about my real mother. I told her everything. She kept quiet for a while and suggested that I call her once and inform her about our wedding, but I refused to do so. After a year, we were blessed with twin children, a boy and a girl. We were a happy family, and my dad along with my stepmom used to visit us occasionally. Everything was perfect until one day. Don't know how, but my real mother came to visit me. She was looking very weak. Her gray hair was indicating her old age. The moment she entered my house, my children started crying. They were scared looking at her. It made me very angry, and I shouted at her, "How dare you come here? Just leave this place." My mother smiled and turned around to go back. Then my wife Kate said that she had invited her to see her grandchildren. I just got so angry on Kate. First time I screamed at Kate, "You know that I hate her? Then how could you do this?" After watching all this, my mother didn't wait and left immediately. The same night, I was thinking about whatever happened, and that time I got a call from my friend from high school.
He informed me that we have a reunion party in 3 days. All will be coming and will be waiting for you. I told them that I'm busy with work and have important meetings, so can't attend. But the main reason for not attending was that I didn't want to repeat my flashbacks. I didn't want anyone to talk rubbish again about my mom and make me feel ashamed. Next morning, I visited Dad to tell about whatever happened the previous day. But as I reached home and was outside the door, I saw a guy calling my father Dad. I was shocked to see that. Then I heard my stepmother telling my father, "You loser, sign this property's paper. You have to share your entire property with my son." He denied doing so. He said, "No, Alex has rights on my property. I'm not going to give you or your son a single penny. It was my biggest mistake that I left my wife for you." That moment, I got a call from my boss, so I just left the place as I had an important meeting with him. That night, I was having a beer and was thinking about whatever happened in the morning, and a message popped up on my phone. It was a message from my school group. They wanted confirmation of whoever was coming, and I replied to them, "Yes, I'm coming." Now the reason to go there was to meet my mom. I didn't know what made me do this. After the reunion party, when I reached home, one of the neighbors said that my mom passed away a few days back.
I was not sure how to react as my hate towards her didn't allow me to cry. My neighbors gave me keys. He said that on her last few days, she gave the house keys to him and told him to give it to me whenever I came.
I took the key from him, opened the door, went inside the house looking for each object, pictures, and remembered those memories. Roaming around for a long time, I noticed a letter lying on the table. The letter was written for me by my mom. "Dear Alex, my dear child, I know you always hated me for my looks, but you don't know as much as you hated me. More than that, I loved you. Your wife was in touch with me. She kept telling me about you and my grandchildren. I was very happy to know you have a beautiful family. I always wanted your happiness, so I just accepted your hatred so that you never feel guilty."
This house is your grandmother's house. We first used to stay at your father's house. One day, I went out to get the letter from the letter box and our house caught fire. That time you were alone in the house. That time no one was ready to go inside to rescue you. Hence, I went in and somehow put you out, but I was surrounded by the fire. Fire brigade came and cooled down the fire, but my face and upper body got burned. I always wanted you to be happy, and I'm happy to see you like this. After reading this letter, don't feel guilty or regret anything. I love you. You are my child. God bless you. Your loving mom. After reading the letter, my heart cried out loud. I felt very bad for my wrong behavior, for how I treated her and just left her alone. I missed her care and love towards me. Likewise, I called Kate and I told her everything. I decided to reside in my mom's house along with my wife and children. Not only that, but I took a transfer from the office and got my kids admitted to the same school where I studied. I felt like telling everything to my father, but second thoughts was it makes no sense to tell them either, as he himself left my mom because she was looking ugly. I stayed here with my family and got used to this place. One day, my kids were playing hide and seek, where my son hid himself somewhere and my daughter was unable to find him. So she took my help to find him. I checked everywhere, but couldn't see him. Even my wife searched a lot. We thought that he would have hid himself in the closet. So we went into the bedroom to check in the closet, but we didn't find him. Suddenly, we all heard the noise coming. Help! Please help! We all three looked here and there, but couldn't understand where the sound was coming from. Then we heard a banging sound coming from the mirror on the wall. I looked at the wall and pulled the mirror outside. We saw a dark storeroom and my son was inside. It was a hidden storeroom behind the mirror door. I then went inside the storeroom and said many unique things, which I never knew. I found an album of my mother and father's wedding. Along with it, there were 2 diaries. One was of my mother and me. In this diary, my mother had written her feelings for me and also what all I did with her. Another one was my father and mother. In this book, my mother had written about their love, their wedding, and then my father's extramarital affair. How my father did the wedding with another woman and brought her home. My father wanted my mom and stepmother to live together. My mother compromised just because of me. But my stepmother didn't want to stay together. So once in absence of my father, she put fire on the house thinking that my mom and I would be inside the house. But my mom, fortunately, was outside and I was inside. And my mother saved me. That time, I understood the reason behind the house catching fire. I read ahead. It was written that my mom had seen my stepmother putting fire to the house. After this mishap, my mother tried to tell my father, but he didn't listen. He didn't want to look at my mother's face because she was looking ugly. My mother was hospitalized, and my stepmother came to meet her. She warned her to stay away from my father, else she would destroy me. And just for the sake of my life, my mom didn't tell my father anything. Gradually, I hated her a lot, so she became more helpless and never uttered a single word against my stepmom. After reading the diary, I couldn't keep myself controlled and called my dad quickly. I told him everything, and he started crying on the phone. He said, "Kid, I know everything, but your stepmother, she used me. She married me just for my money. She wanted my property. She had a son which she never told me about. Furthermore, she had warned me to do as she says, else she will tell you about the fire and she will put a blame on me. I didn't want to lose a relationship with you, so I was just adjusting with her till now." I got angry on my stepmother, and I told my father to leave her immediately. Next day, I went to his place and brought him to my mom's house, and now I live with my wife, children, and father. Of course, my mom's memories are still with us. How did you like this story? Tell us by writing it in the comment box. Don't forget to share and like this video. Also subscribe to the channel to watch more such stories in the future. Thank you.